Hi, my name's Josh and I'm an iCloud ambassador based on the east coast of Australia. I'm also the face behind Wild Narrative, and in the past 12 months I've released a couple of educational ebooks on all things big animal underwater photography. Part of these ebooks is I've gone into some underwater scenarios and detailed things like the best equipment to use, why you might change your shutter speed, aperture and ISO, and a few other useful tips and tricks. If you're interested in learning more about my underwater photography ebooks, please check out my website via the link below. If you have any questions, just you can hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, email, whatever the case may be. I'm always willing to talk all things underwater photography and cameras. In today's video, we're going to be doing just that. However, I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects to photograph, and that is the short fin Mako. The best place in the world to encounter short fin Mako sharks is off the coast of Cabo, San Lucas in Mexico. The reason behind this is the visibility is consistently excellent, the interactions are just second to none, and also you don't have to go too far off the coast to actually encounter the sharks. A short, anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes drive in the boat from the marina, and you're in the perfect area to encounter these animals. Diving with Mako sharks is very exciting. The sharks are full of energy, they're very bold, very curious, and will come extremely close to you and your camera. This makes them the perfect underwater subjects for exciting images. The best lens to use when photographing Mako sharks is a fisheye lens. The main reason behind this is because of their close focusing abilities. You want a lens that can focus pretty much directly on your camera dome, because this is exactly where the sharks will be most of the time. Another benefit to using a fisheye is just that wide field of view. When you've got other sharks in the areas, it really helps to be able to focus on one shark, but also try and include others in the background to enhance your composition. When it comes to camera settings, the most important thing is to choose a shutter speed that's fast enough to freeze the motion of the animal. The last thing you want is to see some unwanted motion blur across the snout or the fins of the shark. The best shutter speeds to use will depend very much on whether you're shooting natural light or with strobes. If you're working with natural light, I recommend shutter speeds of between 1/800th of a second and 1/1000th of a second. If you're working with strobes, a shutter speed between 1/160 and 1/200 will do a great job of freezing the motion of the shark. With regards to aperture, whether you're shooting with natural light or with strobes, f8 is a great place to start. This will be no problem if you're working with strobes. However, if you're working natural light, you may find that it's hard to balance a nice exposure since you'll be working with quite fast shutter speeds. If this is the case, don't worry about opening up the aperture a little bit wider and shooting as low as f-stops like f5, f6. You'll still achieve plenty of depth of field and achieve that sufficient focus of the animal. When it comes to ISO, your main goal is to simply balance the exposure. Just keep in mind that you don't want to be shooting above 1000 for most cameras. Once you start to increase above 1000, you can see some unwanted image noise and loss of image quality. So I try and keep it between 100 and 1000. For most Mako images, because we are working with quite fast shutter speeds, I usually sit between this range, maybe between ISO 320, ISO 600, somewhere between there seems to be where I sit mostly, but it will obviously depend a lot on the natural light that you have available on the day. Another great tip to keep in mind when photographing Mako sharks is to use your camera's continuous shooting mode. The main reason behind this is to simply increase the chances of you nailing that one perfect frame within an interaction. A typical Mako pass might last 1 to 2 seconds because they're moving so quickly. So being able to fire off images in rapid succession really helps boost your odds of capturing something special. How fast you shoot will depend very much on your camera, as well as your personal preference and how many files you want to be dealing with in post-production. Personally, I find if I'm working with strobes, I like to shoot around 5 to 7 frames per second. If I'm working with natural light, I'll increase this to 10 frames per second, and I find that to be a perfect balance.